All right. Good morning, everyone, and a good and Erev Shabbos. Thank you so much for joining us all here today. Today's shiur should be Le'ilu Nishmas, our dear friend Menachem ben Yisrael Yaakov, as well as my dear aunt Meshulam my dear aunt Rivka Bas Gabriel Tzvi, and as well as Dovel's grandfather Reb Shmuel ben Yosef Dovel Kohen, and the Refuah Shalema Bekarov Meshulam ben Sarah Rachel, Miriam Bas Sarah, and a quick recovery for Mendy's daughter. Please remind me of the name Mendy. It froze up over there. As well as thank you very much, and as well as also a refuah shalema and a quick recovery for Yair Yoshia ben Chaya Etra. Today we are on page 85 in the Art Scroll for those who are following along, and we are going to talk about the fourth principle of Bitachon, into having full Bitachon. I want you to understand this principle of Bitachon. It's going to get a little dicey. It's going to get a little dicey because we're going to be talking about the concept of when you're having full Bitachon in Hashem, you also have to abide by His rules. So we're going to get a little dicey over here, and we're going to explain ourselves, and it's going to be a little harsh at the beginning, and towards the end we're going to soften it up just a bit so that you know you're not all in hot water. Or we're all not in hot water. Definitely I am. So here we go. We start like this, and the fourth principle of complete Bitachon on Hashem is as follows. V'hakdamas haravias. Shetia hashgachasai chazaka v'shtadlosai gedoyla l'kayim ma shechiyuva by habari mevodasai. That one who places his trust in Hashem must at the same time be extremely vigilant and make a great effort to fulfill the obligations that Hashem placed upon him in his service, and refrain from all the averos. He must try as much as possible to perform Hashem's commandments, and also to avoid doing which He prohibited. Now, just as he would like Hashem to agree with him with respects to the matters that he relies on Hashem for, to take care of, he can rely on Hashem to have the best interest in mind only if he is reciprocal and is concerned with Hashem's fulfilling His will. What he means by this is that if you're out there and you need something, you want Hashem to be mindful of that, be also mindful of what Hashem wants. You want something, Hashem wants something. This is a two-way street. So you asking for help in a certain area, Hashem has asked you to do His mitzvahs and refrain from doing averos. As our chachamim, our tzaddikim have said, do His will, Hashem's will, as if it were your own will, so that He will do your will as if it's His will. We have this phrase in many different kinds of ways, in many different concepts that we talk about this. It says, do to others as you like to do to yourself. There's similar ones to that. But what he's saying over here is do His will as if it's your own. Meaning do Hashem's will, do mitzvahs, refrain from doing averos, do all those different things as if it's your own thing that you want. The same way you want money, you go out there, you work, you want to make money, you be all gung-ho about doing that, do Hashem's mitzvahs the same way, and then Hashem will do the same for you. It's the same way you want that money, you want that help, you want that refuah, Hashem will be out there all gung-ho for you because you're gung-ho for Him. It says, nullify your will in the face of His will, so that He will nullify the will in the face of others. Meaning, if you have a desire to do an avera, refrain from it. And what the parable is over here is what he's explaining. If you're going to refrain from doing avera because Hashem doesn't want you to do that, then Hashem will hold back others from doing bad to you as well, because you held back yourself from doing bad because to Hashem. And he says, and the pasuk at Tehillim says, trust in Hashem and do good. Dwell in the land and nourish yourself with faith. You can trust in Hashem only on the condition that you do good. And then, only then, you will be nourished by your faith and will merit to dwell in the land. That's what Rav Av says. He says he's very strong-minded about that. He says you have to do good. If you're going to have Bitachon on Hashem, and you want the outcome you're looking for, you need to do good by him. You have to refrain from doing averos. You have to do his mitzvahs. And it says that Hashem is good to those who hope to him and to the soul that seeks him. It's not enough to place one's hope in Hashem. You can't just say, I'm a Baal B'tachon. One must also seek him by being careful to do his will. If he does not, here's where he cautions, Hashem will not be good to him and reliably guide his affairs so that you turn out to his benefit. Chovos Avavos forcibly dismisses the idea that one can rely on Hashem's kindness while disobeying his will. He's saying, don't be a Baal Avera, don't do things in the face of Hashem, stick it in his face, and then say you're a Baal B'tachon. He says like this, but as for someone who places his trust in Hashem while rebelling against him, how foolish is he? And he brings an example over here to understand this. And how weak are his mind and his perception. For he sees in human relationships a principle of behavior that he himself is violating. How do we see that? Let's take an example of a principle in human behavior. He can see what happens when a human being is entrusted by another person with a certain matter, and that person is relying on him to deal with that matter. So I ask you to do something for me, and you take on that task to do it. If the one entrusted with this matter then turns around and instructs the person who entrusted him to tend to one of his needs, so you ask me for a favor, and I say, sure. And then, as I'm doing this favor, it's a long favor, whatever it is, I ask you to say, hey, can you do me a favor quickly? Can you just hop up to the store and just pick something up for me? And you say, no, I'm not doing that. How do you think I'm going to feel? I'm out here breaking my back for you. Or I'm asking for something small and simple, and you won't do it for me? Do you think I want to continue doing this favor for you? Think about it. If I ask you to do something, and you stick it in my face, when you already asked me for something, how is that going to work? How am I going to continue doing for you if you're not even being nice to me about it? And I'm a human being. So he flips that on Hashem. He says, you're asking Hashem for something. You're asking Hashem for favors. You're asking Hashem for health, for wealth, for happiness. And yet you're going ahead and you're sticking in his face. You say, I know I'm asking you for all these things, but I'm still not listening to you. I'm still not doing your mitzvahs. I'm still not going to refrain from doing averos. So think about that rationally. How does that make sense? His warns him to avoid certain things that he wants to avoid, and that person violates his instructions. So he goes through this and he says it doesn't make any sense. And that's why he explains it on a human level. He's the same way you can't expect someone to be nice to you if you're not nice to them, even when you ask them and do it. And by the way, when you went and asked me for the favor, I didn't have any kind of rules for this. I didn't say only if you go to the store for me. It wasn't a deal. It was like, yeah, sure, I can help you. So later on, when you did something against me, you can't say to me, oh, you didn't make a qualification that I have to be nice to you. It doesn't work like that. You can't expect me to be nice to you if you're not being nice to me. And he says, all the more so then if someone transgressed against Hashem's laws and commandments, for which Hashem promised reward to one who fulfills them, and warned them of punishment against them. And what does this mean? He says, when you came to me and you asked me for the favor, I didn't give you any kind of rules and regulations for that. I just said, sure, I'll help you. But then when you did something against me, maybe I'm asking you to do something, or I find out that you're talking ill about me behind my back. I don't feel good about this anymore. I don't want to help you out anymore. Hashem told you. He pointed out the book. He said, do my mitzvos, refrain from doing averos. If you do my mitzvos, I will give you. If you do averos, I will punish you. He's spelling it out for you. Unlike the human being who didn't spell it out for you. So even the more so, you know by a human being, you can't pull that off because you know that person is going to stop helping you. Avada by Hashem, when he tells you, he gives you a clear guidebook as to what to do and what not to do, and I will reward you if you do well by me, and then I will punish you if you do ill by me, then of course you have to do good by Hashem, and you have to refrain from doing averos. And he goes further, he says, if a person who disobeys Hashem is unfit to be called one who relies on Hashem, since his faith is hypocritical. His achu k'moshe amar hakasav. Rather, such a person is like one of the pasuk says, Kima tikaf chanev ki vatzeh ki yeshel lekad nafshei hatzakasas yishmael. For what is the hypocrite hope when he steals from? Surely God will cast away his soul. Will God hear his cry? If I'm being a hypocrite, if I say I trust in Hashem, but then I don't listen to Hashem and I do averos, if I go to cry to Hashem, God doesn't know that I'm a hypocrite? It also says, can one steal, murder, commit adultery, and swear falsely? And it continues to say, and then come and stand before me in my temple, in the Mishkan, in the Beis HaMikdash, and then daven to me and ask me for good things. Hashem is saying, don't. What am I coming over here for? So you could do averos and then come to my holy sanctuary, come to the Beis HaMikdash, come to a Beis HaMikdash and daven to me and ask me for things, when clearly the second you walk out, you're doing everything that I told you not to do. And so we have to be clear and understand that being a Baal Bitachon also comes with being a faithful servant of Hashem. That we need to do mitzvahs, we need to refrain from doing averos. And that's the harsh part of it. There is some commentary over here, and I'll bring this up, and he talks about, he says, the concept is more of, not that you are a sinner. We are sinners, and we try to refrain from doing averos and doing Hashem's will. But there are two types. There's some people who stick it in your face. There are people out there that are going totally against Hashem. All they want to do is be against Hashem. Of those, the Rambam speaks about and says, those people, yes, absolutely cannot. But we all have stuff in our lives that we struggle with. And some of that stuff is lofty things, spiritual things. And it might be something that you might forget to say bracha. It might be something that, maybe you skipped out on Mincha Ma'ariv or whatever it is. Over there, the Rambam says, when you're someone like that, it's not that you want to go out. You're not sticking Hashem says. You're not saying, no, I'm not interested. I don't want. It happens. We're all on different levels. I'm not going to judge anyone. Definitely not myself. I'm terrible like that. What he's saying is that if you are that person who's not sticking in Hashem's face and you just happen to come across these kind of different things that you should be doing and you're not doing, or some small areas that you're doing that, you shouldn't be doing, but they're kind of like, it's part of your life, it's difficult to get away from, you're working on yourself and you're growing every single day, those are the kind of people that you could still have bitachon. And Hashem will still come forth and still help you. Because you are working on yourself. You're not there to stick it in his face. You're not there to try to spite Hashem and say, nah, not interested. You are interested. It's just life is hard. It's difficult. And that's where it comes down to. Is that don't be one of those people who sticks it in God's face. We should work on ourselves to try to do as much as we can and to do everything Hashem asks of us. And refrain from doing all the averos. But at the end of the day, as long as we keep on working ourselves, Hashem still wants to be good to us and still will show us kindness, love, and affection every single day. Now, before we conclude, we go into Shabbos. I want to say a really, really quick word. It says this week in the Torah, in the Parsha, we talked about building of the Mishkan, and there were two things that we were asked of: to bring money, to bring materials, and then there was also work that had to be done. It says over there, one might think that since the Mishkan is a means through which an individual attains deeper relationship with Hashem, the building of it overrides Shabbos. But what does it say in Pasuk? It does not. It says when it comes to Shabbos, you have to stop working, even if it's the Mishkan alone. Even the holiest place that we have, and later on the Beis HaMikdash, the holiest place where Hashem, the Shekhinah, rests, when it comes to Shabbos, we stop and we rest. It says why? He says, I think the reason is, and this is from Rabbi Shaul Rosenblatt, he says, I think the reason is that the word building is ultimately a very mundane act. He says, and when we involve ourselves in the mundane, no matter for what the meaningful purpose is, we can too easily quickly forget why we are doing it. And he gives an example. He says, a nurse helps people. A nurse can go around in the ward, takes blood all day, and what that nurse turns into is just a blood taker. Not someone who's helping save human lives. A volunteer in the third world, he helps dig ditches for irrigation, for water. And that's his purpose. But over time, what is he? He's just a ditch digger. He says, and then he says that, and someone who's building Hashem's sanctuary, he's building the Mishkan, he's building the Beis HaMikdash. In today's days, we build a Beis HaMedrash, a yeshiva, comes to look at yourself as merely just a builder. Over time, you realize it's just mundane tasks. Here, Shabbos is this day to stop and remember the purpose of what we are doing. This is a day to stop doing what we are doing and remind ourselves why exactly we are doing it. We set out, we had a goal to do something for Hashem, to build the Mishkan, to build a Beis HaMedrash, to do good. We go to work every single day. Why? Because we want to better our lives in a holy way, to do better by Hashem. I know we've all picked up on this. We've all learned this and we've internalized this, that we're here to do Hashem's will. And every single day that goes by, we want to get better at that. And so Shabbos is a day for us to stop doing those mundane tasks of going to your 9 to 5, of being constantly drilled with phone calls and emails and mundane tasks. And we lose focus. We lose sight of our goal. Like the book by Simon Sinek, it says, know your why. What is your why? Why are you doing this for? When you don't have a purpose, you don't have a why, you have no goals, you have no end result, where are you going? You get into that car and just drive. You drive and get nowhere. You go in circles. And what this week's Parsha shows us is that when it comes Shabbos, the Shabbos is the time we stop, we think about, we recalibrate, and we say, what is our goal? And then next week we go back to work with a freshness. We go back to work understanding our goal. And then comes Thursday, Friday, and we forget a bit about that. But then we have Shabbos again. And we remind ourselves again, and we recalibrate ourselves again. If we don't stop on Shabbos and refocus, that even though we're building Hashem's Mishkan, Hashem's Beis HaMikdash, a shul, a yeshiva, we're building a Yiddish home, we lose focus of that. Shabbos is that time to sit down, look at life. There's no phones. There's no nothing. You have time to go to shul. You have no excuses. You can have all the time in the world to love, to see the people that you care about, and to think about it. What are we here for? Why are we doing this? And that helps you recalibrate yourself into going into your next week and to be able to do better and to keep on growing instead of just doing mundane task after mundane task after mundane task. Thank you, everyone, for joining us all here today, and I love you all.